Ahoy toy, welcome to Transfix, the channel with a weird robotic foot fetish. Today we're going to be transfixing G1 combiner feet. Now I've been picking up some G1 combiners on eBay because they got some really nice knockoff gift sets. I know Hasbro's doing a great job of reissuing the old G1 stuff lately, but we haven't gotten any combiners yet. But the KOs are a great way to pick up the old G1 sets in great, perfect condition, and you get the joy of opening up a brand new Transformer, putting the stickers on it. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I know they're not authentic, but they're almost as good. And until Hasbro gives us them, that's all we got. They've only reissued the Constructicons so far. The only thing I found is that a couple of stickers are missing on this guy, and you get some mold flash that you have to scrape off. Otherwise, it's pretty close to the original thing. Even has die-cast parts. Now, as great as these guys are, the only thing I found is that some of these G1 combiners have goofy feet. Everything between Devastator and the Predacons have a pretty standard setup of the one big central robot and 4 limb robots, and they all can kind of be moved around to different limbs, Scramble City style, I believe is the term. But some of these feet are weird. So you can see with Computron here, they don't align. One is farther back than this one, than the other one, but that's okay. It kind of looks like he's walking. For some reason, this car has to be turned around backwards. See, I mean, if they had put the peg back farther, you could have had the car facing forwards, and I think that would have looked a little bit better, I think. But also, these have been improved. On the original nose cone, for example, he had 2 holes in the back of him to plug in the foot. Now on this KO version, they've added a 3rd hole so that it could be in the middle. This guy, light speed isn't a problem. So if they hadn't done that, then you'd have the left foot offset, because you could only plug it in like that. So I think that looks weird. I don't know why they don't either offset the peg like they did on the other ones, or put that hole there. So it's nice that the KO fixed it by adding the central hole. Now on Menasor, both of the feet have a hole in the center, and because of the way the cars are molded, there isn't really a way to move that hole to the outside, which is fine if the pegs were centered on the feet, but they are not. You get a foot like this, and this one I have fixed, but you can see that the peg was there. Now I don't know if these appear to be 2 left feet, actually, because I do see what looks like an L molded in there. And again, this is a KO, so I don't know. The G1 probably had a left and a right foot, meaning that they're both going to be wrong, because he's only got central holes. So one of the feet is going to be sticking off to the right like that, and I guess one off to the left, which isn't too bad. But in the case of the KO guy here, I had 2 left feet, which means he's a bad dancer, which means he is going to have his feet shifted over to the side. And there's other examples, I think, where the feet are goofy. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to arrive at. I think you get it. So the way I want to fix that is I like to have all the pegs in the center. So I just took a risk that I was going to have a simple fix to just cut and glue it back onto place. So that's what I did. And that's what you can do too. Now, I do have some hobby knives, but those aren't really going to have the strength to cut through something. This is solid plastic. So just use a basic box cutter style of X-Acto knife. And now this gives you the advantage of being longer and stronger, and you can just saw right through this. So that's what I did. So make sure you've got this locked into place very good and tight, and then get a safe place to cut. So I recommend holding it this way with the blade towards yourself. That way, if you make a mistake, you can slash your wrists as it slips off and just end it all, and you don't have to worry about it. No consequences. What you might want to do, though, is a different approach. I forgot to do that. What I did is I put a towel folded up on the floor to protect my floor, and just get this in a good grip. Of course, be safe when you're cutting, and just score it. So you want to press down hard, not like that, but like imagine there's a towel here, okay? And so you press it down a little bit and rock it back and forth, keeping the blade as flush to the foot as you can. Rotate it around just to kind of score the whole outside part of it. This part's going to be tricky because the toe is in the way on this particular one. So maybe you won't worry too much about that angle. We just kind of want to saw through this to get the whole outer part of it flush, so we get a nice clean cut. And then once you've got a bit of a score all the way around, just get a good angle and just push back down and just rock it back and forth, and you'll cut right through that sucker like I did over here. Now, it doesn't look super great, but it is flush. You get a nice flat cut here, and it's going to be covered up by the robot, right? Because it's a foot. And then to get it back into place, you might want to just give it a light sanding and then use some super glue. Cyanoacrylate is, of course, the best thing to glue plastic together if you want it to hold and be very strong. The Gold Plus here is good because it doesn't cloud. It doesn't really matter too much for an opaque plastic like this one here, but you might get some clouding if you use the regular kind of super glue. So this costs a bit more, but the Super Gold makes sure you don't have any of that white clouding effect on it. That is just from the cut itself. And yeah, I could probably just touch it up with some paint, but again, it's going to be totally covered by the robot. So a dab of super glue. Of course, you want to use the fine tip if possible. And just put a dab of glue on the peg. You know, test fit it first to make sure you have it in a position that's going to be flat as possible, and then just stick it on there, and then you just dabbed a little bit of extra glue around. We can probably see it hardened there. And make sure it's level, of course, because that's going to affect how it stands up. And that worked out pretty well. Now for breakdown here, you can have this a bit loose, right? Because there's a split on the peg, and it just beautifully plugs in there. And now he's got a symmetrical foot. For Wild Rider, that's a solid piece, so it's a bit tighter, but again, you can just plug it in there, and it's secure. It's not going to snap off unless you really torque it on an angle. Just be careful with it. I think that super glue is going to hold just fine, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other piece there as well. And I'm going to have a nice level combiner. And in fact, Menasor was kind of leaning forward the way it was, but now that I've fixed this up a little bit, it seems to be a little bit better. And I figured out why he was leaning back a little bit. On Wild Rider here, the head didn't go all the way back, I think. I could see the screw in here. There's a little screw there, and they provided a cutout in the neck so that it goes around the screw, but it wasn't quite meeting up. I think there was, this screw is a little bit low, so that hole wasn't quite doing what it was supposed to do, so I just took a knife and just carved out a little bit of the bottom of this keyhole shaped notch here, and until it actually goes all the way back, flush and around the screw. Now his head sticks up straight and he won't be tilted forward, making Menasor lean forward, just in case you encounter that on yours. God, I love these guys. Oh, I also did a bit of painting here because when this is closed, you can see a little kind of a black line around here where the paint stops. So just get a bit of extra paint or nail polish, and you can, once you open this up, you can just paint the seams. That happens in a lot of these, even the modern figures too. Just need a little bit of paint here and a bit of paint there, just to make that seam a little bit less noticeable. So now we have two centered foot pegs that nicely fit into our centered robots. Just gonna make sure those legs are closed and this is stuck down. Now I could have, if I thought this through, I could have also moved the peg forward so that the foot lined up this way as well as the other way, but I'm mostly concerned with the horizontal or side-to-side kind of alignment. As long as that's symmetrical, it's okay, because this just looks like he's stepping, like I said earlier with Computron. That's okay with me, but you could fix that too if you wanted to, of course. And there's our Menasor all fixed up. I think that looks a lot better with centered feet. And that is pretty much it. That's just a quickie this week. This month, I should say. I've been a bit slow getting these videos done. Been very busy. Sorry for anybody who's a regular viewer. But there's going to be more stuff coming. I've got a few things ready to film. But I just need the time to do it. So I hope you'll come back. And I hope this helps somebody. We'll end on a finished shot once I get this done. But for now, I will say thanks a lot for watching, and good night.